You're listening to the Homeboys podcast, recorded in our Indiana office and with combined 40 years of experience. Here's your hosts, Clint and Scott.
Hey, real estate investors, you are with the Homeboys and the Homeboys podcast. We are very excited to have you today. We love providing this content for you real quick. Hit subscribe down there so you can get updates from us on future podcasts and other content that we're providing. We've got a very boring episode for you today. We are going to talk about renovating properties for future success. We're coming off of a couple of fun topics, and I feel like we're just going down just a little bit.
Oh, this is fun.
We talked about food a couple weeks ago.
Nothing is more fun than eating food or talking about food. However, this is fun. You love remodeling.
I love remodeling. Some people don't carry the same passion.
Sure.
I have about it. I hate it that I'm stuck, or I should say chained to my desk as much as I am,
We do not let you out of your office.
No. I used to love getting out and renovating properties and being in charge of that, but we've got a go-to person here in our office that's been with us forever that does that. But anyhow, speaking of food, I'm just coming off of Father's Day, and I got to enjoy some of our favorite food from that podcast. I got Ale Emporium wings.
Nice. And
Ale Emporium pizza, and I sat around and I watched golf for like 8 hours.
Heaven.
Pretty epic. So just got fatter, but
I had eggs.
It was awesome. You had eggs?
I had eggs for Father's Day. I woke up early for me, and I ate spoiled, rotten eggs and was sick all day from it.
You really were?
Mm-hmm. I didn't tell you about that? Yeah. Sick as could be. 8 rotten eggs. But I did get the best shirt you've ever seen from my daughters for Father's Day.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yep. It applies to what we talk about a lot here. So my shirt says, "This is not a dad bod, it's a father figure." The best shirt I've ever had.
It really is. Please go to a state fair.
Oh, I will.
Wearing that shirt.
Oh, I will.
And just let me, walk behind you and take a picture. And
I think they got it for me so I would wear my shirt more around the house. I'm like that white trash guy who walks around like on Cops episodes. You know how the guy's never wearing a shirt when they show up?
Yep. Or
I now
beater.
get that as I've gotten older. I walk around my house with my shirt off a lot. And if the girls are in the kitchen, I'll say from the other room as I walk by, "Want to see something really cool?" And I just stick my stomach out and look at them, or I'll flex.
Well, when they look at you weird, you should just say you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So they got me that shirt, which I love the shirt. It's one of the best Father's Day. It's the best Father's Day gift
I think
I've
it's
ever
incredible.
gotten. Yeah.
I think you should have worn it today.
I know. I should have.
You let us down by not wearing it, actually.
Well, it's in the laundry. It hasn't been washed.
Because you wore it for like 48 hours straight afterwards.
Right. I walked around the house in it.
I would have.
It's a great shirt.
It's an incredible shirt.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, let's get a
happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you, and happy Father's Day. A little belated to everyone out there. Lots of great dads out there. We have lots of great dads that are customers. It is. I'm not very good with getting any kind of attention, so I always try to just tell them your best gift is no gift.
Right.
But I got a couple pretty cool gifts. I got a painting of my daughters, which is really neat.
Amazing.
I had an artist do a painting, and it's got my dogs in it too. It's pretty
so neat,
pretty slick. But it will adorn my office walls here pretty soon.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to bring it in. But anyhow, let's get on to the real estate because we're such experts.
Yeah.
40 years real estate experience. Let's get into this. Renovating properties for future success.
Yeah.
We think that this is extremely important because I see, and I know you see all the time, people getting into real estate and just doing the bare minimum or not doing the right things or going overboard or, there's lots of mistakes that can be made here. So I want to first preface what we always say on this show is boring and keeping it as boring as possible. Unless there are some differences, like if you've got a vacation rental or something else, that changes things. But for the most part, you and I work in the world of long-term, sound real estate investments. We don't really get into the vacation rentals. Not to say that there's not great money in it, that there's opportunity, but we like to keep things incredibly boring.
Right.
So anyhow,
I would also say that, just so people understand, we also are in what would probably be considered as the higher end of long-term rental properties. So
especially for Indianapolis.
Right. So what we're speaking about, bringing things to a certain level, probably doesn't apply to if you're out there buying garbage properties in garbage areas. What we're about to tell you about rehabs probably doesn't apply. Nothing applies, in my opinion, to that. Stick some lipstick on your pig and good luck. But this applies to, quality housing that you can fix up to a significantly specific level that just you can't afford to do on those cheap junk houses. So.
We don't promote polishing turds.
No.
Polishing turds does not work in anything that you do, especially in real estate. We've talked about the circle of rehab, rent, evict, and that circle continues when you get in garbage properties like you speak of. So
our properties are boring, but I would literally move my family into any single house that we've ever done. I just simply would. Don't get me wrong.
They're great houses.
I love my house, and I'd much rather be there. But we do houses to the level that we would live in.
Your house is a little nicer than what we're doing.
Oh, it's definitely nicer. I
don't think there's a rental property in our portfolio that's got the view that you have out your backyard.
No, I have a nice home, but really my property is the beautiful part.
And I get what you say. You're just reiterating the fact that we're working in good neighborhoods,
right.
Good properties,
right. And bring them to a condition that anyone could live in it. A standard high-end apartment level finish.
Right. Safe neighborhoods.
Right. Safe areas, and done well enough that anyone could live in it and not be embarrassed.
So let's say we got a property. We've identified it. We've kind of ran all of our numbers. We know that it needs rehabbed. We're trying to figure out the best way to navigate that. And let's say you and I are ready to walk in and kind of assess the property.
Right.
What are you looking for?
I think the first thing we would look at is the layout of the property and the flow of the rooms, so to speak, and to make sure that it works. Now, you never want to spend too much money on changing the floor plan of a property. It's dollars poured down the drain because there's no increase in its beauty or the level of the property. It just changes a floor plan. So if you can make it work, you leave it and you work with what you've got.
So on the flip side of that, you would say, if there's a, for lack of a better word, like a bastard type layout, where you say it's a 2-bedroom, call it a 3-bedroom, but you have to walk through one of the rooms to get to another bedroom. That would be something that we would find concerning, and we may try to fix that.
Correct.
Does not happen very often.
Not in our level of homes.
Correct.
We buy homes that are pretty standardized, built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, when houses started to have a very specific floor plan. But prior to that, houses were piecemeal. They're chopped up in many cases.
Bought out of the Sears catalog in
Correct.
some cases.
Yeah, and they're functionally obsolescent is what we would say. They have tiny closets that people don't want, and you got to walk through one bedroom to get to another. So we don't come across that. However, that would be a case where you fix it and you change it. Now, another example was I went to one of our houses yesterday.
I know
Newcastle.
that. It's a big step for you.
I know. I've been, we've got people who do all of these things.
Right.
I'm chained to my desk just like you are normally. I had a blast.
I was jealous.
Yeah, I actually physically went to one of our houses. And
I had an appointment, and I came out of my office, and you and Barry were gone.
Yeah.
And I wish I had it on camera because it's sheer terror.
Right.
You guys being
The
missing
hang dog.
number one, and then I called you, and you're like, "Oh no, we're on our way to see a property," and I'm like, "Well, you son of a,"
you poor bastard.
you left me here, by myself.
Right.
But anyhow, you were saying you got out, you got to go out to a property.
Yeah, and he's a real estate expert. He's actually a local appraiser. He's a fireman full time, and he's an appraiser who we know in the business. You and I have known of him for 15 years and have known him personally for 10. And he's just too busy to build his own portfolio. So he's literally buying one of our turnkey properties. He could go do this with his eyes closed, but he doesn't have the time. So he's just buying one of our turnkey properties. Well, buying two, possibly Shellbark. So we went out there, and there's a dining room that's connected to the kitchen, but it's got a solid wall between it, and it would flow much nicer if it was like a half wall with a breakfast bar.
Right.
And he said, why don't we knock out that wall and put in a breakfast bar? And I said, well, that'd be great. If we were selling this house, I definitely want to do that. However, the rent difference between spending $3,000 to remove that wall, change around the kitchen layout, you will get $0 extra dollars in rent. So there's a balance with a lot of that stuff too, where it's, yes, that would be a much better layout. It would be, if you were on resale, that will improve the value of the house even. Rents, it won't bring any extra rents. So it's hard to know which ones of those you can do. So we always say, if the floor plan works and it's good enough to function and bring the rents, that's one of the things we don't mess with very much. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do because we want to make these houses as cool as they ever could possibly be. Right. It's hard to keep your paws off something you could make better very easily, but at the same time, you got to make your dollars work smart in this to get the best returns. You can still provide a beautiful, great product, but it just doesn't have to be the perfect layout. You can work with what you got.
So we've secured the floor plan.
Yeah.
In most cases, we're looking to keep it. There's few rare cases that it needs to be, switched around just for, make it a little bit more functional. But we have secured the floor plan. So after we've secured the floor plan, we're going to be moving on to how we finish, the property. Two quick things, from me. I think two things come to mind. Keep it simple. Don't go overboard. Keep it simple. But also take care of as much as you can early before you start to rent it out, because there are things that they will continue to pop up. So whenever I say keep it simple, I don't feel like that you have to go in and put travertine in the bathrooms, or you have to go in and
no one knows what travertine is,
or a high end flooring, or high end lighting, those sorts of things.
Right.
We're right in the middle as far as how we want to finish a property. We don't want to put crap materials in there. We want to put very durable materials, but at the same time, we don't want to go overboard.
Yeah, so it's a step above builder grade is what people can understand it as.
You say that a lot. I like that.
It's true though. Mm-hmm. So if you go to, say, a Menards does builder kits, as you know, and you can buy different levels of builder kits depending on the level of house. Meaning you can literally go into Menards and say, I want to build this floor plan, and they show up on your lot with all of the material, including lights, toilets, sitting there. So they have different level finishes, and that highest level builder grade that's in our market, it's about $300,000. The lights and things that are in that kit, we do one tier above those. Which is, I don't think people realize that. The stuff we use, it's still builder grade.
Yeah, but a lot of times those builder grades, you're talking some pretty cheap lighting. We've dealt with it, for a while, where you just have like a stainless steel bar and 5 light bulbs. It looks like come right out of the 80s, but we saw them in the 90s and even 2000s, where they would put those in. So, we're looking to go, like you said, a step above that. Right.
And then your second point was keep it simple. And then what was your other point?
Do as much as you can.
As early as you can.
As early as
Meaning
you can.
The first rehab you do on the property when you either acquire it or, let's say it's...
Let me give you for example.
Okay.
Let's say that you have carpet and you're going to do carpet in the bedrooms, and that there's carpet, already there. But you've got one of the bedrooms that's got some discoloration, got some staining, in it. I personally like to replace things like that in the beginning. I know what my costs are. I like to have it fresh, clean, and neat. If that property is fresh, clean, neat, very appealing to the eye in the beginning, I'm going to attract a better tenant. And if you start off at a good spot and you start off with a good tenant, your chances of success down the road are exceptional. I've seen it a lot of, and that's just how I've always been, but I've seen it a lot of times with clients that bring their properties to us.
Right.
And, they say that they just had it remodeled and they're wanting us, to do it and, do the management, and, seeing the things that they don't do that there's huge nicks on the Formica countertop that really, if you're going to keep it as Formica, $300-$400, you could go buy the stock stuff at any of the home improvement stores and, make it look fresh, clean, and neat. And when we're dealing with, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month rentals, you're attracting, a more well-heeled tenant that is going to take care of the place. So it just disqualifies the property when you don't do a lot of those things. When I say do as much as you can early, that doesn't mean going in there and going overboard with the finishes. That means if some of the finishes, the flooring, the countertops, some cabinets or vanities, if they're in bad shape, I like doing it early.
So to summarize, because this is a difficult thing to explain unless you took someone to example after example that we do. There's a lot of people who will buy a property and they will go in and say, okay, the carpet in this room is good enough. I'm not going to replace it. But the carpet's bad here, here, and here. This bathroom, it'll need to be updated in a couple of years. I'll wait and I'll do that then. This other bathroom, it needs total remodeled. I'll do that one now. We say, get it all together and done now. You're going to be doing this stuff over time. So if you what we see happen is if they skip a bedroom or skip a bath and put that off till later, you're not going to get the great rents at the beginning. You're not going to get the better tenants. Before you know it, you don't want to spend money on the next tenant turn, and you put off the bathroom. And we see these things really go sideways quickly versus starting with a fresh product across the board. And we're not saying go in there and just replace everything that doesn't need it. However, if you start at the beginning and you replace everything you know that's going to need to be, or very soon going to need to be, don't put that off. Get that property going off on the right foot right away, and then you can.
If you start with 10 issues and you fix 5 of them, and then you rent it out to a lower quality tenant, and then whenever you get it back, you still have those 5 issues, and then you've got 3 more.
Right.
And then if you do 2 or 3 of those, and then you've got 4 issues, and then you get another tenant out, and then it goes another couple issues go back. It's so much more difficult to fight and get on that stinking hamster wheel to get the property where it needs to be. Right. And not to mention, it also provides other exit strategies, if you will, that if you keep that property up, we always promote long-term rental investing, but it keeps the property in a good shape that provides you other exit strategies if you had to.
And it keeps it right on that edge of being when you do tenant turns, you just have to do little refreshes. If you have a tough tenant turn, the last thing you want is to have a tough tenant turn plus 4 other issues that you didn't handle before, and you still got to remodel the bathroom, and then you put it off further. I went to lunch with Joe, the person who helps us with these podcasts, and on our way back in, we've got these beautiful flower pots in front of our office, and the paint's kind of cracking off. And I said, what's interesting about these flower pots is the fact that every single thing that's manufactured in this world, the day it comes off that assembly line, it's going downhill, it starts to deteriorate right away. So if you've got half the property kind of halfway through deterioration, the other half fixed, it's just a mess, and it gives the wrong message, too, to tenants about what you care. If you don't care about your own house that you're putting them in, they're not going to care about it either.
Right. When we are providing properties, for customers, we take care a lot of the major systems.
Right.
Roofing, HVAC, water heater.
Right.
We're looking at, really starting it off right, even from that standpoint. But if you are just investing on your own, you're not going to a turnkey provider, which, we provide lots of resources and, can provide some really great things that a lot of people have a struggle to get that to A to Z. But if you are doing it, on your own, what do you say about some of the major items, HVAC, plumbing,
right.
Some of that stuff?
I understand the desire to write it until it bucks you with that stuff. Mm-hmm. You want to get as much life out of them as you can, but it's going to be a major inconvenience for your tenant. It could possibly cause other damage. There's a lot of reasons why you would want to delay it, not spend the money. Why fix it until it really needs it? But the truth is, it's going to cause you more headaches than it's worth. If you're going to end up needing to replace it, you replace it now, ahead of time. Don't wait for it to be an inconvenience for you, your tenants. Don't wait for it to cause damage to further systems in your house.
It's like you could have an inefficient, air conditioning, unit, and then your tenants' utility bills skyrocket. We've seen this,
and they want to move immediately.
Correct, they want to get out.
Yeah, it's not you're not providing them the best product that's out there on the market. Now, that's not to say just because your air conditioning isn't the most efficient on the market, you don't have to put that in. However, the scenarios we're talking about, it's just garbage systems that just suck energy and barely spit out. It's like an asthmatic blowing half cool air on you all day. So those systems are so important. We err on the side of replacing more than we probably should, because we've had so much experience where we've tried to ride things out and it's bit us because a tenant's then unhappy, or it causes the water condensation from an AC line because the AC line wasn't insulated the way it should have been, causing damage to a basement. There's all these scenarios that have taught us the hard way that, if it's borderline and it's at the end of its life, you replace it now, you're going to have to replace it later. It's easier now.
I think it's also to comment, I think the quality of some of these bigger items has deteriorated, over the years.
Big time.
So a person has to really be cautious. You had an interesting story not too long ago.
Yeah.
In your previous home. Yeah. The water heater was how old? It
was 1981. My HVAC was 1976. Yeah. It was a Chrysler furnace.
Crazy. I've been in thousands of homes. Yeah. I didn't know Chrysler was churning out.
Yeah, and you couldn't have paid me to replace it because it was a giant piece of metal that worked, and that you just replaced parts. It was made to work for a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not this Chinese-made crap that they call HVACs today. So, that's kind of an asterisk to all of this, is that if you get one of those old systems that was made to last generations, sometimes replacing that, just because it's old, replacing that with a new junk furnace that, they only last 20 years now if you're lucky, replacing it with that is a bad idea.
Well, and, speaking of like the water heaters, I said to clients over the last 2 decades, how you would see a 30-year-old water heater more often than you would see a 10-year-old.
It's true.
Just because, and that's the way everything, like manufacturing, it's just not what it used to be.
Right.
I talk about it with lawn equipment all the time. I'm still using the same brand that I grew up with my dad. And it's that stuff that we used back in the 80s was so much better. But
we have Briggs and Stratton motors were made for lifetimes.
Correct.
I heard even they are junk now, which is heartbreaking to hear if that's true.
It just seems like everything has been that way. But so I say that I say all this to caution that there are different levels, of HVAC systems and water heaters and all of that, and going the absolute bottom of the barrel. I'll give a great, for example, the house that I lived in downtown, whenever I was still a bachelor, I skimped, and this is 2008, so we're going back a ways, but I renovated a house that was built in 1890, 5,500 square foot home.
And by house, he means a shell.
Yeah. It was. I had to redo everything.
Right.
So when it got to a certain point, I was trying to save money, and I won't even mention the brand, but put in some. I had to put 2
Does
full
it start with good and ends with man?
It does.
How can I guess?
I wasn't going to say anything, but it's amazing. At month 6, the problem started and they never stopped. It was just bananas. How terrible it was. Where if I went with a Root or a Train or some of a Carrier or some of these other products, I'm really big on Carrier right now. I feel like those are pretty good units.
Plus, there's local jobs. Carrier's a big employer.
It is, and I think that's part of the sentiment. I've always felt that it's supporting our local economy here.
They're great jobs here. Great jobs.
But they have some good units, and so just be cautious of what you're buying. I'm not saying on the water heater side you have to go out and get a new tankless system for $3,000 to put in there, but going a step above the bottom of the barrel, I think is smart.
Absolutely.
To do.
I always feel like if it's what the Housing and Urban Development Department of our government and Fannie Mae use when they need to replace something, you should go a step above that.
Right. So let's dive into the finishes a little bit more. And this is a little bit more Indiana specific because, we've done some investing in Florida and the finishes are just a little bit different.
Like tile flooring. You have to use tile flooring in our house.
We see lots of people, we have a lot of investors from Florida and they come up here and they're like, oh, well, you need to put tile throughout the house.
Right.
Well, I get that, that's how it is in Florida, but whenever it's -10 here in Indiana, it's not really great to have a tile floor in the house, especially throughout. So a lot of people in Indiana, they still prefer carpet, especially in the bedroom. So we still, put carpet in a lot of our bedrooms, but a finish that we're seeing a lot of now and that we're big on is the vinyl plank, flooring. So
it's an unbelievable product. I have it in my house because I have dogs and kids.
My house too.
Yeah, you can get high-end stuff.
Here at the office.
Yeah, we have it in our office. It's just incredibly durable. You can spend a lot of money and get stuff that looks unbelievable and just looks like wood. Mm-hmm. The main reason, though, is for the durability. That is the main reason we did it. And it's not freezing cold on your feet. If someone drops a soup can, unlike tile, it won't crack. It's there. And if there is an issue, it's replaceable. We have started using this version of it that you don't have to take it all the way up from the wall. A lot of it, if there's a piece in the middle that's been damaged, to replace it, you got to take it all the way out and then build it back. You replace that piece, put it all back. Well, this new stuff we have, you can just replace the piece just from the middle right there. So it's functionally, it's an amazing product and lasts a really long time, but it's also very easy to repair instead of replace. Mm-hmm. And that is huge with deferred maintenance on rentals. So, and it looks good and tenants like it. So what else could you ask for? It's durable, tenants like it, and it's easily repairable. It's a dream.
That's one of the finishes. I'm huge on vinyl plank flooring. Yeah. Another mistake I see a lot, and we've joked about it, is investors going in and putting a flat paint bomb, throughout the house. I think you say
we used to call it a grenade.
Yeah, setting off a paint grenade.
It's like they threw a grenade in there and ran out of the room, and it's just white everywhere. You know.
But so we're talking about leaving the trim the same color, the ceilings, the walls. I like for it to be visually appealing for the tenant. So we're big on semi-gloss.
Right.
On the trim, at least an eggshell on the walls, and keep in mind, going an eggshell grade is going to keep it. It's much more durable than if you just put flat
and
paint.
Cleanable. And
very cleanable. If you just do flat, you just get a lot of issues. There's a reason why flat finish is the cheapest.
Yeah. Try to stick with the same paint colors in every rental that you do. It's something that we do.
Good point.
That way you can just do touch-ups, or even if it's sun faded, which will happen, you could just paint one wall in that room, the wall that has, needs the touch-up. So, if you stick with that same paint color, it's going to save you all kinds of deferred maintenance over time. And it's just an easy thing to do. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
You can tint any paint you choose that same color.
It just goes back to boring.
Yeah, boring. And once you find a color combination that works, stick with it. We made a change the first time in 10 years probably. We made a change from the tans because, I'm told that's old-fashioned now, to gray tones.
We're in the gray tones now.
And we found a combination, and we're going to stick to it.
Because, I remember whenever I first started, in 2002, everything was going to beige.
Yeah.
Everything was. And I just felt like, man, it's always going to be here.
I remember
using it,
my Broadway house that I have a picture of, one of my first houses, and my first important house that was mine. I got Perry Ellis beige, and I thought everyone's going to know how cool I am now. My walls are Perry Ellis beige.
Well, you gave people a lot of reasons to think you were cool back in those days.
Yeah, collar up, right. Ray-Bans on.
Right. But I never thought it was going to go away.
Right.
Now it's grays, and I remember thinking that
it's like our hair used to be browns, and now it's grays.
Man, that's the reason why I got it so short, so to hide some of the gray. But the brass finishes. were dying out, and now they're coming back a little bit. So I do try to keep. I think that's another quick tidbit is I like keeping the finishes on the doors a little bit upgraded because it's pretty cheap and it changes the entire look of a place.
We do that. So we change out the hinges and the door handles, and it's an extra cost. Mm-hmm. It's one of those that you could argue you don't need to do it. You won't get a return. But again, it goes back to that tenants see that you care that much, where you've made it a modern, really nice home. Those little touches, they treat the house better too.
Right.
So it's one you could get away with not doing. We always do it. We really think it's important. Like yesterday, telling the client we were replacing the door hardware. He was blown away because it's perfectly fine, silver. It's normal. But those are those touches. You do a good job of staying up with what's popular. So where do you spend time to find out that house? How's
I don't know. I've been on that houzz.com.
Yeah.
HOUZZ is a cool place to go. But for me, I spend so much time, like when I do have free time, my computer's in my lap.
Yeah.
Just looking at things and being a sponge.
You have a tip where people could kind of go just to see what the trends are currently?
I think HOUZZ is a neat place because there's all kinds of pictures on there. Again, I really think just being a sponge and seeing what is out there.
Sure.
Sherwin-Williams has lots of different things on their website.
They do color portfolios too, so you can kind of see what the trends are for each year. Because we were looking at painting the outside of my house, and so I went there to their visualizer, and I thought, I don't even know where to start. And so I went on Sherwin-Williams, and they have 2021 color palettes to choose from.
And a lot of it for me too is my personal home is literally under construction 365 days out of the year because I've moved a lot. I'm in my 13th home since 2001. I don't plan on moving again.
So crazy.
But, because I've been in my 13th home since 2001, I have just constantly been updating. And you kind of get a knack for that because, it's always under construction. But like you said in the beginning, like this was something that's always been near and dear to my heart. Whenever we were just friends in real estate, not partners in real estate, used to give me all kinds of crap because I was the one in Menards picking everything out.
I'd call you and you'd be at Menards literally picking out the lights that go in every house.
Yeah, so I'll be here for another 3 hours, so I'll be free here in a little bit.
My mind was blown.
I just always enjoyed doing it. It's one of those things that I hate that I don't get to do as much. I still do some, but I love it. And,
I picked out the showers in our apartment building. It was so much fun.
It's awesome, right?
It was so fun. Right. I was there for 2 hours. There's only like 12 choices.
Right.
It was neat. So I get it. I miss it too. I miss it.
So, you can have fun doing this also. To recap, really dive into the floor plan, secure the floor plan, keep it simple with regards to not going overboard, with materials and, doing too high end of finishes. Do as much as you can early. I know that's one that people are probably going to have a hard time hearing. We've been doing this for a combined 40 years. We've seen it. Whenever you don't get off on a good foot, it just your chances of success are so much smaller than if you do everything right the first time. This is a long-term business. Do it right. We fully believe in that. There's materials are changing every year, stay up on it. That's something that, we're happy to field. Any of the questions, you have any last
No, that's good.
Tips for our listeners.
It's a good summary. Work with the floor plan you can if you can. Only make changes to it if you necessarily have to. Do a good rehab. Do it all up front so you start with a great product and then maintain that product. It sounds pretty simple, but it's difficult to find that exact pinpoint. But hopefully these tips helped, and and we'll continue to keep our eye on these things. And if people have questions, like you said, we're always happy to share our opinions and our thoughts. We're open books over here.
So hit subscribe again. Love doing this with you guys. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We love hearing from our listeners and from our clients. Always here to help you out in your real estate investing. Until next time, happy investing.